Jack had been exploring the stars for years, but nothing had prepared him for what he would discover on this strange planet. It was an uncharted world, located in a distant corner of the galaxy, one that no other human had ever set foot on. The planet was dark, with thick clouds swirling above and a mysterious, almost eerie energy surrounding it. The signal they had received from this world was unlike anything Earth scientists had ever encountered. It was too advanced, too organized. To be natural, Jack was part of a small crew aboard the Vanguard, a state-of-the-art exploration ship. They had been tasked with investigating the signal and determining its source. The captain, a seasoned veteran named Rachel, had given Jack and his team the job of landing and gathering samples from the planet's surface. It seemed like a simple mission: explore, gather data, and return. But the moment Jack set foot on the planet's surface, he felt a strange unease. The air was thick and heavy, and the ground beneath his boots seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Jack tried to shake the feeling off. He was a seasoned explorer. He had seen his fair share of strange and dangerous worlds. But this one felt different. As he moved away from the landing site, Jack looked around at the barren landscape. The sky was a dark shade of purple, with flashes of lightning that seemed to come from nowhere. The trees that dotted the planet were tall and twisted, their branches reaching up like claws trying to grab the sky. The ground was covered in moss and strange plants that glowed faintly in the dim light. Jack wasn't sure if it was the planet's natural makeup or something more. "Stay close." "Jack." Rachel's voice crackled through his communication device. "We don't know what's out there." "Fine, Captain," Jack replied, his voice calm. "Just doing some preliminary scans. Nothing to worry about." He activated his scanning device and began analyzing the area. His screen lit up with strange readings, things he had never seen before. There were high concentrations of energy deep beneath the surface, and several unusual structures had been detected not far from where he stood. They were faint but visible. Jack felt the curiosity bubbling up inside him. What were these structures? Who could have built them? As Jack moved closer to the source of the strange readings, he spotted the first of the structures, a massive stone building that looked like it had been abandoned for centuries. The stone was smooth and dark and strange. Symbols were carved into its surface. The air around it seemed to hum with power. Jack couldn't help but feel drawn to it. He approached cautiously, his boots making soft sounds on the moss-covered ground. As he stepped closer, the symbols on the building began to glow faintly. He reached out to touch the stone, and as his fingers brushed the surface, the ground beneath him trembled. Jack stumbled backward, his heart racing. The symbols on the building grew brighter, and suddenly, the massive stone doors began to slowly open, revealing a dark interior. A chill ran down Jack's spine. What was inside? Should he enter? His training told him to stay cautious, but his curiosity was too strong. He was alone here, and this was the discovery of a lifetime. With one last glance back at the landing site, Jack stepped into the building. As he crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind him with a loud thud. Jack froze. The sudden sound was deafening in the silence of the massive chamber. The interior of the building was vast, the ceiling disappearing into darkness. Strange carvings covered the walls, depicting scenes of stars, planets, and distant galaxies. At the center of the room was a large circular platform that glowed with the same eerie light as the symbols outside. The air was thick with energy, and Jack could feel it tingling on his skin. He moved forward, cautiously stepping toward the glowing platform. It looked like a place of power, something far beyond human understanding. As he approached, the ground beneath his feet hummed softly, almost like a low whisper. Jack could hear a faint sound now, coming from deeper within the structure. It was soft at first, like the sound of wind passing through narrow corridors. But then, as Jack continued forward, the whisper grew louder. It was a voice, not human, but something else, something ancient. It echoed in the chamber, coming from all directions. The voice was soft at first, then louder, until it was unmistakable. "Are you alone, human?" The words sent a shock of fear through Jack's body. His heart raced. He wasn't alone. Someone or something else was here with him. Jack spun around, his hand reaching for the weapon holstered at his side. But there was no one there. The room was empty, save for the strange glowing platform and the carvings on the walls. "Who's there?" Jack called out, his voice shaking slightly. "What do you want?" The voice did not answer immediately. Instead, the chamber grew colder, and Jack's breath became visible in the air. The whisper continued, circling him like a predator stalking its prey. "I have watched you, human. I have watched your species for a long time." Jack's eyes widened. The voice was no longer just a whisper, it was clear, strong, and unmistakable. It was speaking directly to him. Jack took a step back, his mind racing. Who was this kind of being could speak with such power? Why was it interested in him? Then, from the shadows, something stirred. A figure emerged, tall, regal, and impossibly graceful. Jack's breath caught in his throat. She was unlike anything he had ever seen, even in the most advanced human simulations. The figure before him was an alien, but she was more than that. She radiated power and elegance, her features sharp and commanding. Her eyes glowed softly, and her long, dark hair shimmered in the dim light. The alien queen's gaze locked onto Jack's, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. She stepped forward slowly, her movements fluid, almost like she was floating. "You are not the first to come here, human," she said, her voice now softer, but still carrying that sense of authority. "But you may be the last." Jack's heart pounded in his chest as he stood frozen, unable to look away. She was beautiful. Yes. But there was something more to her, a power that made him feel small in comparison. She stopped in front of him and looked down, her eyes scanning him with intense curiosity. "Are you alone, human?" she asked again, her voice almost a whisper, yet it felt like it filled the entire room. Jack opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He swallowed hard, trying to steady his breathing. The alien queen waited, her gaze never leaving his. He nodded, still unsure of what to say. "Yes, I'm alone," he finally managed to say. The queen's lips curled into a slight smile, though. Her expression remained as unreadable as ever. "Then you will do." Jack didn't know what she meant. But something told him that this was only the beginning of something far larger. Jack stood frozen, his eyes locked with those of the alien queen. The air around them felt thick, as if the space between them was charged with some kind of unseen energy. He couldn't tear his gaze away from her, though every instinct told him to step back. She was unlike anything he'd ever seen or imagined. Her skin, smooth and flawless, had an almost ethereal glow. And her eyes were unlike human eyes. They shimmered with an inner light, as though galaxies danced within them. Jack tried to swallow, but his mouth was dry. His heart pounded in his chest. He had trained for years for moments like this, but standing in front of an alien queen was unlike anything he could have prepared for. The queen's gaze softened slightly, and she stepped closer to him. Her movements were slow, graceful, like a dancer moving across a stage. She did not speak, but Jack felt the weight of her presence pressing on him. "Are you afraid, human?" The queen's voice broke through the silence, her words gentle but carrying an unmistakable power. Jack didn't know how to respond. He wasn't sure if he should be afraid, but the truth was, a part of him was terrified. The room felt colder now, the shadows darker. The queen was still standing in front of him, but she seemed almost too real to be standing in such an ancient place. He shook his head, trying to clear his mind. "I'm not afraid," he managed to say, his voice steadier than he felt. "Just surprised." The queen smiled, though it wasn't the smile of someone trying to comfort him. It was a smile of recognition, as though she knew exactly what he was feeling. "It is rare to meet a human who isn't afraid," she said, her voice still calm but tinged with curiosity. "And I've watched your kind for a long time, and you're a species full of potential, but also full of weakness." Jack felt a sharp pang in his chest. He had heard enough about the pride of humans to know that they were always considered weak in the eyes of other races. It was a stereotype that humans constantly fought against. But hearing it from the alien queen, someone whose presence alone could strike fear into the hearts of even the bravest beings, made it feel different. Are you here to judge us? Jack asked, taking a step back. The ground beneath him hummed, softly, as if reacting to his every movement. No, the Queen replied, her voice almost soothing. I do not judge. I observe. I am curious about you, human. Curious, Jack echoed, confused. Why? She tilted her head slightly, as if considering his question. You are different. Your species is young, yet you have already spread across your world. You have begun reaching out to the stars, but you are still so fragile. Jack felt a deep sense of unease. What was she trying to say? Was she saying that humanity was weak and unworthy? He didn't know. But he couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was leading somewhere important. You have the power to shape your future, human, the Queen continued, stepping closer until she was almost within arm's reach. You do not understand it yet. Your kind has much to learn. Jack took a deep breath. What is it you want from me? He asked, his voice slightly trembling despite himself. He had to know what the Queen wanted. This wasn't just an ordinary alien encounter. There was something bigger at play here, something that could change everything. The Queen looked at him, her eyes piercing through him like she could see into the depths of his soul. For a moment, Jack felt like she could read every thought, every fear, and every hope he had ever had. It was as if she knew him better than he knew himself. I want nothing from you, human, she said softly, almost regretfully. At least not yet. Jack frowned. Her answer didn't make sense. If she didn't want anything, why was she talking to him? Why was she here, watching him, studying him? I have seen many species in my long life, the Queen said, her voice filled with a strange sadness. I have watched them rise and fall, conquer and be conquered. But your species is different. There is a fire within you, something that makes you both unpredictable and fascinating. Jack tried to understand what she was saying, but it only left him with more questions. The Queen didn't seem threatening, but at the same time there was something unnerving about her calm, distant demeanor. She seemed almost detached, as if she were speaking about something far removed from her personal experience. Then, why me? Jack asked, his voice filled with curiosity and confusion. Why contact me? The Queen's smile grew wider, but there was no warmth in it. It's because you are the first to enter this place in many centuries. You are the first human to step into this chamber. You human are a symbol of your kind's future. What you do next could change everything. Jack blinked, trying to process her words. His mind raced as the Queen's words began to sink in. This wasn't just a random meeting. She wasn't just talking about his mission. She was talking about something much larger, about the future of humanity itself. What do you mean by that? Jack asked, his voice quiet, almost a whisper. What do you want me to do? The Queen seemed to consider his question carefully, her gaze fixed on him. After a long moment, she finally spoke. I want you to understand, she said softly, her voice carrying a weight that made Jack feel small in comparison. There are forces at work in the galaxy that you cannot yet comprehend. You, human, are standing at the threshold of something great, or something disastrous. You must choose your path carefully. Jack's mind was racing. He was alone on this strange planet with an alien queen, and she was asking him to make a choice, something that would affect the future of his entire species. He didn't know what to do. He wasn't ready for this. I don't know if I can. Make that choice, Jack said, his voice filled with uncertainty. The Queen's eyes softened. You will, human. You have no choice but to choose. Jack took a deep breath, his heart pounding. This wasn't just a mission. This was something far more important than he could have ever imagined. The fate of humanity and possibly the galaxy was... Jack stood still, the weight of the Queen's words pressing down on him like a heavy stone. The air around him felt colder now, and every inch of the dark chamber seemed to close in. The Queen's gaze remained locked on his, her glowing eyes filled with a strange mix of curiosity and authority. Jack had never felt more vulnerable, yet there was also something about her presence that made him want to stay. To learn more, the Queen finally broke the silence, her voice gentle yet filled with power. I can see that you are overwhelmed. Human, You are not the first to face uncertainty when meeting a being like me. But I believe you have the potential to understand the things I will show you." Jack's mind was spinning. What could she possibly want him to understand? He had come here as part of a scientific mission, to explore and gather data. Yet this encounter was far beyond anything he had ever imagined. His body felt frozen, not from fear alone, but from the overwhelming responsibility he suddenly felt. This was no longer about exploration. It was about a choice that could shape the future of humanity. "I am not sure what you want from me," Jack said slowly, his voice betraying a hint of doubt. "You say there are forces at work in the galaxy that I cannot understand, but what do I have to do with them?" The Queen's expression softened, though her eyes still held that distant, knowing look. She took a step closer, the sound of her movement echoing in the quiet chamber. "You, human, are the first to enter this sacred place in many generations," she said, her tone quiet but firm. "I have watched your kind from afar for a long time, and I believe you are different. You are at the beginning of a path that will either lead to greatness or to your species' downfall." Jack tried to process her words. This wasn't just about a meeting with an alien queen, it was something much larger. His thoughts were racing, but the Queen's presence kept pulling his attention back to her. "Why me?" Jack asked. "There must be others. Why choose me?" The Queen smiled slightly, her lips curling in a way that almost seemed knowing. "You ask why? Because you are a reflection of your people. You carry the same traits, the same qualities that define humanity. But unlike many of your kind, you have yet to be corrupted by your own pride." Jack blinked. "Corrupted?" She nodded. "Yes, your species is capable of great things, but you are often blinded by your own pride and ambition. You seek power, but not all power is meant to be wielded. Your world has suffered because of it. You human have the chance to change that." Jack's chest tightened. The weight of her words felt like a heavy burden on his shoulders. Was she right? Was humanity blinded by its own ambitions? He had seen the greed and conflict that ran rampant across Earth, but he had never considered how it might affect their future in the galaxy. The Queen seemed to sense his turmoil. "I do not come to you as an enemy, Jack. I come to offer you an alliance, to offer your people a chance to see a different way. You have the potential to rise above your past mistakes, to create a future where your species is not driven by destruction, but by understanding." Jack's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. An alliance? An alien species that had lived for centuries? The idea was both overwhelming and fascinating. What would an alliance with the Queen's people mean for humanity? What would it cost, an alliance? Jack repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. "What does that mean? What do you expect from me?" The Queen's expression became more serious, her tone turning more commanding. "I expect you to choose wisely, human. You must decide if you will remain stagnant, clinging to your pride and your conflicts, or if you will rise and join a greater purpose. The galaxy is vast, and there are forces far more dangerous than you can imagine. Your species can either be a force for peace or a weapon of destruction." Jack's head was spinning. It was hard to comprehend what she was offering. But something inside him, something deep within his gut, told him that this moment was important. This could change everything for better or for worse. "Do you really think humanity can change?" Jack asked, a hint of skepticism creeping into his voice. "You've been watching us for so long. Do you believe we can truly change?" The Queen's eyes softened, and she looked at him as if she were seeing something deep inside him. "I do not have all the answers, Jack, but I have seen potential in your kind. I have seen the light of hope in the darkest places. Your species is not as lost as you believe. But you must decide which path you will take." Jack stared at her, the weight of her words sinking deeper into his mind. The decision she was asking him to make was not one he could take lightly. It wasn't just about him. It was about humanity's place in the galaxy. The Queen's voice broke through his thoughts. "Come with me, Jack. I will show you the truth. I will give you the knowledge you seek. You will see the forces that shape the galaxy, and you will understand the choices that lie ahead. You will decide if you will fight for your people or if you will let them fall. Jack felt a strange sense of urgency rising within him. He knew that this was his moment. He had the chance to learn, to understand, and to choose a future for humanity. The Queen was offering him a glimpse into something far greater than anything he could have imagined. He took a deep breath and nodded. "I'll go with you." The Queen smiled again, her gaze approving. "Then come, human. The path before you is not easy, but it is the only one that will lead to the future of your species." As she turned and walked toward the shadows of the chamber, Jack followed, his mind still racing with the weight of the choice he had made. This was the beginning of something far bigger than he could ever have prepared for. The future of humanity lay in his hands, and he had no idea what awaited. The chamber was vast, and as Jack followed the Queen through its endless corridors, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking into the unknown. Each step felt heavier than the last, as though the weight of the decision he had just made was pressing down on him. The Queen's presence remained constant, like a guiding force in the shadows. They arrived at a large circular room. The walls were covered with strange symbols glowing softly in the dim light. At the center of the room was another platform, this one much larger than the one Jack had seen before. It hummed with an energy he couldn't quite understand. The Queen stood before it, her back straight and proud, her gaze fixed on the platform. "This is where you will prove your worth, human," she said. Her voice calm, but filled with a quiet authority. Jack swallowed hard. Prove his worth? He hadn't expected anything like this. He'd hoped for answers, maybe guidance, but a test? He wasn't sure what the Queen wanted, but he knew this was no ordinary challenge. "What kind of test?" Jack asked, his voice steady, despite the anxiety rising inside him. The Queen turned to face him, her eyes piercing. "A test of your mind and your spirit. I have watched your species for a long time, and I know that many humans are driven by emotions: fear, anger, pride. These things can cloud judgment. I need to know if you are capable of seeing beyond these feelings." Jack took a deep breath. He had always prided himself on being level-headed in difficult situations, but this was unlike anything he had ever experienced. The idea of being tested by an alien queen, an ancient being who had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations, was overwhelming. "Show me the strength of your mind." The Queen continued. "The test will not be simple. It will challenge everything you know. It will force you to question your beliefs and your understanding of the universe." Jack nodded, trying to steady his nerves. "I'm ready." The Queen raised her hand, and the platform in front of them began to glow brighter. The symbols on the walls shifted, rearranging themselves into intricate patterns. The room seemed to come alive, the energy in the air crackling with anticipation. The Queen stepped aside, gesturing for Jack to approach the platform. "Step forward," she said. "Your test begins now." Jack hesitated for only a moment before he moved forward, drawn by a strange force. As his foot touched the platform, the symbols around the room shifted again. This time they formed a single question, glowing in bright letters that Jack could read clearly. "What is the true nature of power?" Jack blinked in confusion. The question was simple, yet profound. What was the true nature of power? He had always thought of power in terms of strength, physical strength, or the ability to control others. But this question felt different. The Queen wasn't asking about physical strength. She was asking about something deeper, something more abstract. He thought about it for a moment. Power, he realized, wasn't just about force or control. True power, he believed, was the ability to influence change, to shape the future with wisdom and understanding. It wasn't about domination, it was about balance. But could that be the answer the Queen was looking for? Before Jack could respond, the room shifted again. The walls around him began to crumble, revealing images of different worlds, different civilizations. He saw humans at their best, uniting to overcome challenges, creating new technologies, and reaching for the stars. But then the images changed, showing the darker side of humanity: wars, conflicts, and destruction. The Queen's voice echoed through the room, her tone both stern and sad. Your species has great potential, human, but it is also capable of great destruction. You must understand this balance. The choice you make will determine the future of your people. Jack's heart raced as the images flashed before him. The future of humanity was on the line, and the weight of that responsibility felt heavier with each passing second. He couldn't deny the darkness that had existed in human history, the wars, the greed, the pain. But he also couldn't ignore the moments of greatness, the times when humanity had come together to achieve something extraordinary. He thought of his own life, the moments he had felt proud of, the times when he had helped others, and the times when he had seen the potential for something greater. Was that the answer? Was true power about learning from the mistakes of the past and striving to be better? The Queen's voice interrupted his thoughts. Time is running out, human. Answer. The question? Jack closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. He knew what he had to say. He had seen both the darkness and the light in humanity. But it was the potential for growth, for change, that truly defined their power. The true nature of power, Jack said, his voice steady, is the ability to choose. It's the ability to learn from the past, to recognize the mistakes we've made, and to make the right choices moving forward. It's not about force or control. It's about understanding and growth. There was a long pause. Jack stood still, waiting for the Queen's reaction. Had he answered correctly? He wasn't sure, but he had spoken from his heart. And he hoped that was enough. The room was silent, the symbols on the walls glowing softly. Then the Queen stepped forward, her eyes fixed on Jack. You have answered correctly, human, she said, her voice low, but approving. Your answer shows wisdom, something that is rare in your species. Jack felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had done it.
How?
He had passed the Queen's test. But he knew that this was only the beginning. The challenges ahead would be far greater, and the future of humanity still hung in the balance. The Queen looked at him with a mixture of respect and anticipation. You have shown strength, Jack, but the true test will come when you face the challenges of the galaxy. Are you ready? Jack nodded, his heart still racing but filled with a new sense of purpose. I'm ready. The Queen smiled, a rare expression of approval. Then you may be the one to lead your species into the future. The choice is yours, human. As Jack stepped away from the platform, the room slowly began to fade into darkness, and he couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead. He had passed the Queen's test, but the true journey... Jack's heart still raced as he stood in the Queen's chamber, her words echoing in his mind. The choice is yours, human. Those words felt like a weight on his chest, as if the fate of humanity rested solely on his shoulders. The Queen had shown him the power of understanding, the importance of growth and choice. But now, standing before her, Jack knew the next step would not be so simple. The Queen's gaze never wavered from him, her eyes still glowing with that strange, ancient power. She was waiting for him to make a decision, waiting for him to choose. A path that would either lead humanity to greatness or let it spiral into something far worse. Jack glanced around the room. The strange symbols on the walls seemed to be watching him, almost as if they were waiting for his next move. He swallowed hard, trying to calm his racing thoughts. What was the right choice? The Queen had shown him the future, but there was so much more to consider. Could humanity truly change? Could they rise above their darker nature? What do you want from me, exactly? Jack asked, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. You've shown me the power of choice, but what happens if I choose wrong? The Queen's expression softened, though her eyes remained intense. Choosing wrong does not always mean destruction, human, but it will mean that you have failed to live up to your potential. I see the strength in you, Jack. You have the wisdom to lead, but that doesn't mean the road ahead will be easy. Jack took a deep breath. The weight of her words settled on him, heavier than anything he had ever experienced. She wasn't just testing him anymore. She was offering him a responsibility that he didn't fully understand. Could he live up to it? "What happens if I choose to stay with Earth?" Jack asked. "If I turn down your offer and stay with my people?" The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly, as if considering his words. "You would stay with a species that has not yet fully grasped its power. You would remain in the shadow of your past. Mistakes, forever bound by the pride that has caused so much destruction. You may survive, but you will not thrive." Jack felt a pang of doubt. He had always believed in humanity, believed that they had the potential to do great things. But the Queen's words made him question everything. He couldn't ignore the flaws in humanity, the greed, the wars, the corruption. Was he just being naive to think that his people could change? "And if I choose your offer," Jack asked, his voice quieter this time, "what would you expect from me then?" The Queen stepped closer, her presence overwhelming. "If you choose me, you choose a future where humanity will not be bound by its past. You'll have the knowledge and power to shape a new path, one where your species can rise above the darkness that has held it back. But you will also face dangers, Jack. There are forces in the galaxy that would seek to destroy everything you strive to build. It will not be an easy road." Jack's mind was spinning. He was being asked to lead humanity into the unknown, to make a choice that could change everything. The fear of failure gnawed at him. What if he wasn't ready? What if he wasn't strong enough? But the thought of staying with Earth, of watching his people struggle, of seeing the same mistakes repeated over and over again, was even worse. "I'm just one person," Jack said, his voice filled with doubt. "How can I lead humanity? How can I make a difference?" The Queen's gaze softened once again. "You are not just one person, Jack. You are a symbol. You represent what your species could be if it chooses the right path. It will not be easy. But you have something that many do not, the ability to see beyond pride and fear. That is why I chose you." Jack felt a sense of clarity start to form within him. The Queen wasn't offering him power for its own sake. She wasn't asking him to rule or conquer. She was asking him to lead with wisdom, to help his species become something greater, something more united. It was not about strength or control. It was about understanding, growth, and the ability to choose. "I don't know if I'm ready," Jack said, his voice soft. "But maybe that's the point. Maybe none of us are ready, but we have to try anyway." The Queen nodded, her eyes filled with a mixture of approval and expectation. "You're wiser than I thought, human. The path ahead is uncertain, but you have already shown the courage to walk it. Your species may not be ready, but that is why you are here. You have the chance to lead them into a future where they are no longer bound by their past." Jack looked at her, feeling a sense of responsibility he had never known before. The future of humanity, the future of everything he had ever known, lay in his hands. It was up to him to decide whether to take the risk, to face the challenges, and to lead his people into a new age. The Queen stepped back, her eyes never leaving his. "You must choose now, Jack. What will you do?" Jack stood there for a moment thinking. He had always thought that being a leader meant being strong, unyielding. But now he realized that true leadership was about being willing to face the unknown, to make difficult choices, to trust in the potential of those he led. "I choose to try," Jack said finally, his voice steady. "I choose to help humanity rise above its flaws, to build something better, something greater. I choose to learn, to grow, and to lead." The Queen smiled, the first true smile Jack had seen from her. "Then you are ready, human. Your journey begins now." As Jack stood there, the weight of the decision still heavy in his chest, he knew that the road ahead would not be easy. But he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For the first time, he felt a sense of purpose stronger than fear. He was no longer just an explorer. He was a leader, and humanity's future depended on. Jack stood in the Queen's chamber, the weight of his decision settling on his shoulders. He had chosen to help humanity rise above its flaws, to lead them toward a better future. But as the Queen looked at him with a sense of approval, Jack knew that the path ahead would not be easy. There was much to learn and much to face. The Queen's eyes never left him, as if she were searching for something deep inside him. Jack's heart was still racing from the decision he had just made. He had chosen to trust the Queen, to to take her offer and lead humanity into an uncertain future. But now that the choice was made, what came next? You have made the right choice. Jack, the Queen said, her voice soft but powerful. But now, you must understand the weight of the responsibility you have taken on. Leading your species will not be without its challenges. There are forces in the galaxy that would seek to destroy everything you work for. Jack nodded, his mind racing with the Queen's words. He had always known that leading humanity wouldn't be easy, but hearing it from someone so ancient and wise made the reality feel much more daunting. There was much to learn, and he wasn't sure if he was ready. But one thing was clear. Couldn't turn back now. The Queen stepped closer to him, her presence still commanding. I have shown you the power of understanding, Jack. I have given you the knowledge of your people's potential. But you must also understand the darkness that lies ahead. There are forces in the galaxy that would seek to destroy all that you hope to build. Jack's chest tightened. He had seen glimpses of the power that the Queen's people wielded. But the idea that there were other, more dangerous forces out there sent a chill down his spine. What kind of enemies would they be facing? What could they possibly do to stop them? You are not alone in this, Jack, the Queen continued, her voice steady. You have allies. My people have been watching over your kind for centuries. We have seen your potential, but we have also seen your flaws. You are capable of great things, but you must learn to control your own darkness. It is only then that you will be ready to face the challenges ahead. Jack looked at her, his mind still swirling with questions. What do you mean, control? Our darkness? He asked. What does that have to do with us working together? The Queen's expression softened, her gaze thoughtful. Your species has a history of conflict, of destruction. But you also have the capacity for great kindness, great creativity, and great compassion. The darkness I speak of is the part of you that seeks power without understanding, the part of you that has caused harm without thinking of the consequences. Jack nodded slowly. He understood what she meant. Humanity had been driven by ambition and pride, often without considering the long-term effects of their actions. But could they truly change? Could they learn to control their darker instincts? You must learn to harness your potential, Jack, the Queen said, her voice filled with resolve. Only then can you guide your people to the stars, to a future, where they no longer rely on fear and conflict. But you will need help. You will need those who understand the galaxy, those who have seen the dangers that lie ahead. Jack's mind raced. He had always believed in the potential of humanity, but the idea that they needed the help of alien forces to succeed was a hard pill to swallow. The Queen was offering them an alliance, but it would come at a price. His people would have to trust in the Queen's wisdom, in her knowledge of the galaxy's dangers. I understand, Jack said finally, his voice steady but filled with determination. We will learn, we will grow, but we won't do it alone. We need your help, just as you need ours. The Queen's eyes glimmered with approval. You are wise, human. I knew you had the potential to lead, to see beyond the pride and fear that cloud your judgment. But remember, Jack, this is not just about your people. It is about the future of the galaxy. The choices you make will affect everyone, not just humanity. Jack took a deep breath. He had chosen to trust the Queen, but now he knew that the responsibility was even greater than he had realized. The future of humanity and the entire galaxy was in his hands. The Queen stepped back, her gaze softening slightly. I will guide you, Jack, but you must be willing to learn, to listen, and to grow. Together, we can achieve greatness. But it will not come easily. Jack nodded again, feeling the weight of her words. The path ahead would be full of challenges, but he knew that he had made the right choice. It wouldn't be easy, but nothing worth doing ever was. We will learn, Jack said firmly. And we will do it together. The Queen's smile was faint but genuine. Then you are ready. For the first time since his arrival on the strange planet, Jack felt a sense of calm wash over him. The Queen had shown him a future full of possibility, full of hope. But it would take time, effort, and understanding to make that future a reality. The road ahead would be long and uncertain, but Jack was ready. He had chosen to lead too. Help humanity rise above its flaws and become something greater. He would work alongside the Queen and her people, learning from them and using their knowledge to guide his own species toward a brighter future. The galaxy was vast, and the challenges ahead were daunting. But Jack knew that he wasn't alone. With the Queen's guidance and the strength of humanity, they could face whatever came their way. And so,